Hey guys, and welcome to a tutorial with me, Anjay. Slightly odd one today. The guitar is nowhere to be seen because what I'm doing today is looking at effects chains. So effects chains are really important when you're building up your sound because where pedals go can affect the overall sound of your guitar immensely. There are some rules that are quite well respected and listened to. There are some which are much more flexible. What I'm going to do is show you how I personally set up my effects chains with some bits of advice that I've found, also where you can experiment and move things around. Also, I'm going to talk to you a bit about how to use a noise reduction pedal because I think that's quite important if you've got a big signal chain. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pedals here, which kind of can make a lot of noise if you're not careful. So I'm going to scrub around on the floor for a bit and show you things. Down we go. Right, so I am sprawled out on the floor with a load of effects, just to try and give you some idea of where things can go in a signal chain. Not plugged in, just kind of looking through what they are. So when you're looking at an effects chain like this, the guitar is going in on the right hand side over here. Now I'm starting this chain with my Donna tuner. The reason is I want the cleanest signal possible going into the tuner, but also because the tuner can act as an on-off switch to the overall effects chain. Some people would actually put the tuner at the very end of the effects chain, sort of over here somewhere. And the reason for that is the same, because it then acts as a switch to turn off the signal. And especially if you're using something like a volume pedal here, you can turn the effects chain off at the start and at the end, so you don't get all the sort of the hum and the buzz. But you would need to switch everything else off to get a clean signal through the tuner. So I tend to have it there. Next up, volume control, volume pedal, because again, it gives me an easy way to switch off the overall volume, but also gives me that opportunity to use it for the violin effects, and rolling down gain a bit and just sort of easing off the volume across the whole signal. Next up would be my wah, because I like it there. Wahs can go in lots of different places, which we'll talk about in a second, but I like it before everything else. After that, we have an octave pedal. Now, octave pedals, pitch shifters, harmonizers, again, they want a fairly clean signal to work with, so tend to put that next in the signal chain, possibly even before the wah, but because of the way this particular analog octave works, it's quite nice to have the wah going into it because you can get some cool effects with it. Compressor. Now, some people again would put compressor much earlier in the chain. For me, I want the compressor to come after the octave, so the octave has a completely clean signal, or as clean as possible a signal. If you don't know what a compressor does, a compressor will take your signal and it kind of it keeps the note going for longer by adjusting the volume, so the volume kind of goes up over time, so it doesn't decay as quickly. Which is a really nice kind of thing for long lead solos and that sort of thing. Okay, after that we move into distortion and gain. So the way I start is with my lowest gain pedal, which is Betsy here, which is a tube screamer, going into my next level of gain, which in this case is a plexi distortion. You could, if you've got one, put a blues driver in there, that sort of pedal. So if I grab Hello Sailor's blues driver that he's lent me, that could go there because that's kind of the next level of distortion. And then into a fuzz pedal, because fuzz is kind of the top end of my gain chain. Now the reason for this is, take this one out for a second, the reason for this is that you can go from the lower gain, stack that into slightly higher gain, and then stack that into insane. So for me, that gives you a much heavier signal, and I much prefer that sound. You can do it the other way around. You could go there to there. Not as keen on that for myself. But again, it's down to personal choice. Now then, here's where people start to go into real preference here. So, following the chain round this way. Now, I've put the Neo clone here. This is a chorus. Now, actually, I tend to have the chorus before all of the gain. So, I would have that there, which goes against some conventional wisdom, because a lot of people would prefer to have it later on so that everything goes through the chorus sound. For me, I like the sound of chorus going into the distortions. By the time you get to here, you've probably lost most of the chorus though. So for me, that's where I would put it. But it's a similar story with the wah. I like having the wah over here because I like to have that go into all of the gain. However, if you want a real kind of screechy wah, you would put it out over here. So you'd have it at the end of all of the gain, so that everything goes into here and you get the whole effects chain gets kind of wah'd. But again, for me, personal preference, down this end. Okay, and yeah, that is me hitting the tripod with my elbow. Now, here's the next bit of this. Delay and echo. So, or delay and reverb. So if you are like me and your amp doesn't have an effects loop, all of this then goes into the delay, because you want, for me, I like to have everything going into the delay and getting kind of all of the signal delayed. Some people might put it down this end so that the clean signal is the one that then goes through everything. I like to catch everything in the delay, which then goes into the reverb to give all of the kind of the ambience around it. So the signal chain goes here, through all of this, into the delay, into the reverb, out into the amp. However, if you've got an effects loop, these would go into the effects loop, because that sits between the preamp and the power amp, and you'll get a much nicer feel to the tone. Going into it this way gives you a lot, as I say, a wetter sound. There's a lot more delay and a lot more reverb happening, and it doesn't sound quite as natural. But you know, beggars can't be choosers. If you can't do that, then put your delay into your reverb, into the amp. The last two things on the signal chain. Now, that's all well and good. Now I'm powering, so when you're doing a pedal board, you tend to need to power all this. I'm using a Donner power supply. There are more expensive ones out there. That one does me fine. Whatever you want, whatever you do, try and get one that's isolated and cleans the signal. So for me, if I put a standard 9-volt supply in some of these pedals, it doesn't work very well for me in the UK. Put it through the Donner power supply, it seems to clean the signal a lot, so I get the DC a lot, so I get a much better sound out of it. Now the only other thing is, and you can just about see it off the corner of the frame, is a noise gate. So I have the Behringer NR300 noise gate. There's lots of ways you can use a noise gate. You can put it right at the start of the signal. Can't see it there, hang on, just move everything up. Diddly-do, diddly-do. Right, so you could put it there. So what happens is the noise reduction kicks in so that you don't hear all of the hiss and the whine into the amp. You can equally put it up here somewhere, and it would stop when you stop playing. All of the hiss from all of the distortions and things will die off. However, in this particular instance, this is a slightly different noise reduction, because those would be for ones that just had an in and an out. This one has a send and return loop as well. So what you can actually do is you can put your noisy pedals through the noise reduction, whereas all the other pedals can stay outside of that, so you don't get any signal degradation. Because what a noise reducer will do is it slowly gates the volume down, and sometimes that can sound very unnatural. So what you can do with this one is you take your input. So in this case, let's say that's going to be my input. So I'm going straight into here. And my final stage that I don't want to have in the noise reduction would be the reverb and that. So what would happen? You'd go from here into here. Then your out would go to there, out to the amp. In the meantime, you would send all of this stuff would go through the send, back into the return. So all of this then gets affected by the noise reduction, but nothing else does. So your signal, when the noise reduction's on, a lot of your signal remains entirely pure, but all your noisy pedals are being reduced by this thing. So let me go and grab some leads, and I'll just show you how that all plugs together. Just to give you an idea, guitar goes in here. Grab that one. Noisy pedal is going to be going through the send and return. That's my noisy pedal that I don't want to have lots of feedback and rubbish off. The output from the noisy bits go into the return here, and then the out, grab a lead, and then the out from the noise reduction goes to the in here, and that goes off to the guitar. So that way this here is affected by the noise gates, these are not. So I hope you found that helpful. Like I said, there are no rules set in stone. There are just guidelines that might work best for you. Mess around with it. Put the chorus after your distortion. Put the chorus before you are. Put you are after your delay. Whatever you want to do. Doesn't really make a difference. There's no rule to say you can't. It just changes the sound. And what you want to do is find a sound you really like and a setup you like. Because at the end of the day, it's you who's playing. It's your guitar. It's your tone. But hopefully this might give you some idea of where to start from. Okay, so until next time, keep on playing and I shall see you soon.